This is Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis.
All right, let's go. Going to be a busy one. Loaded show, full up, top to bottom, side to side, loaded up with great guests for the full 2 hours. We got lots to get into. We're squeezing it all in. It's the wrap-up finale for the season for Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis, and we got a busy one. In hour number one alone, Pete Blackburn from CBS Sports will join us. Sean Gentille, who covers the Pens for the Post-Gazette, will join us. Luke Fox from Sportsnet.ca coming up, and Jim Diamond, who covers the Nashville Predators for the Associated Press and Rinkside Report. That's all coming up in hour number one. In hour number two, Chris Peters, our friend from ESPN.com, with the latest on the draft and prospects, will join us. Josh Smith from scoutingtherefs.com. Oh, yeah, we'll talk about refereeing. Neil Greenberg from the Washington Post, and to wrap it all up, Sean Leahy from NBC Sports Pro Hockey Talk. That is all straight ahead as we have a giant blowout final for the season-ending edition of Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. At Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, our Twitter and Instagram handles. Feel free to weigh in with questions, comments, and the like through our Facebook page as well. We're live on hockeyunfiltered.com and streaming live on the Hockey Unfiltered app, all powered by Primetime Radio. Oh, it's good. The Capitals are setting a new standard for Stanley Cup celebrations. It is unbelievable what the Washington Capitals have been up to in a couple of days. I posted a piece up on our Facebook page showing what much of what happened on the first night. Then they had the cross-country flight. Yesterday, OV and company took the cup to the Washington Nationals ball game, and Alex Ovechkin threw out perhaps the worst ever ceremonial first pitch. It was incredibly bad, wind up and right to the backstop. It was really funny. So, of course, he had to have another chance at it, gave him another go, and he hit that one a little bit closer. And then OV and a few of the Caps took a little swim in the fountain outside of Nationals Park afterwards. I posted on our Twitter account a little visual of that. Now, clearly, the Washington Capitals players are trying to test a theory that if you keep drinking, you don't get a hangover. So this seems to be their course of action as they get closer and closer to the parade celebration, which still isn't happening until Tuesday. I don't know if anyone has ever actually succeeded in this practice. I haven't. You wind up paying the price in the long run, but this seems to be the strategy that the Washington Capitals are going through, trying to extend that celebration right through until the parade on Tuesday. I wish you well in your mission. I'm not sure that you will have success, but I do wish you well in your attempt. It also seems like the perfect storyline for The Hangover Part 4. Pro hockey team goes to Vegas, wins the Stanley Cup, a mad celebration ensues. They lose the cup on the way to the parade. Hilarity, tattoos, all sorts of unusual hijinks. I can't see NHL Productions wanting to get involved with this, but I do think it is a very viable plot line for a movie. I'm not sure where it goes next. If you want to weigh in through Twitter, through Instagram, at Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, with storyline suggestions through our Facebook page as well, that would be good. I think part of the celebration, though, has to be TJ Oshie and I believe it was Matt Niskanen riding the subway with the Stanley Cup. That's got to be part of the parade on Tuesday, I think. I think that really has to be part of it. Let's get some thoughts from the first of our many guests today as we're lined up and jam-packed from CBSSports.com. At Pete Blackburn is how you follow him on Twitter, and Pete joins us now. Do you think that we can incorporate the Metro and TJ Oshie with the Stanley Cup riding that in the parade in some way, Pete?
Yeah, I think that would be probably a cool thing to do, considering, the fact that was a big part of the playoff run, and, it became one of those big storylines heading down the stretch is that Oshie, obviously, well, now we know that Oshie has his card filled. He was 35 cents short one of the games, so he's got his card filled. So I would think that would be a pretty cool way to do it.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the cost is for the Stanley Cup. Maybe it just rides free as your accompanying baggage. But I'm good to have that. To put a bit of a conclusion on the Cup final as well. I didn't think it was the greatest Stanley Cup final of all time. I thought clearly the better team of the two won. After the first crazy game, then Washington won 4 straight, and I'm not really surprised that it went that way. And good for the Washington Capitals. I think it's just now a chance that everybody can exhale, and after so much frustration and disappointment, they've got their championship.
Yeah, so I agree with you. I mean, the first game set the bar really high in terms of competitive level and sort of chaos, and it didn't really live up to that first game the rest of the way. But the storylines and sort of just the overall feel of happiness for me, because I wanted Ovechkin to get one. So after that first game, it was a good Stanley Cup final to watch in terms of the result and the storylines that it was building towards and all that. And it ended with one of the most emotional sort of most raw celebrations that I've seen in a long time, and that was very, very cool to watch.
I agree, and I think that's kind of what's carried the Capitals through the last couple of days, is that it was such an emotional victory for them and for the franchise and for the fans for better than 40 years of sticking with them after especially starting so poorly going back to the 1970s. We've talked a lot about the great performance of Alex Ovechkin, Evgeny Kuznetsov. The debate was back and forth who should win the Conn Smythe. Either one would have been a fine choice. Nick Backstrom was also great, but the Capitals also got contributions from so many other players that were deeper in the lineup that without them, I'm not sure if they do win the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, so I thought that their stars played better than Vegas' stars, and that was a big reason why they won. But also the fact that they got contributions from pretty much everybody. I mean, you look at Devontae Smith-Pelly, he equaled his goal totals in the playoffs as the same amount of goals as he had in the regular season. I thought Brett Conley was really good, and they had contributions from everybody. Lars Eller, who stepped up when he had to, when Backstrom and then Kuznetsov went down. So they had depth and they had their stars playing like stars, and so it was the case. It was sort of a case of in years past, Ovechkin didn't get a lot of help, at least when they needed it in the postseason. This year, he got help from pretty much everybody. They got the bounces, they got good goaltending. They got everything that they needed in terms of being a true contender. So that's a big reason why it actually happened this year for them.
The other part of the Alex Ovechkin story is that, well, now he has a Stanley Cup. Now his career is complete. He can be recognized as one of the true greats of the game. I think that's a bit misguided in the current state of the NHL. Years ago, perhaps, when there were far fewer teams than there are now, even if Alex Ovechkin had played his entire career and not won a Stanley Cup, he's still one of the greatest of all time, one of the best goal scorers of all time.
Yeah, and I wrote a column about that right after the Stanley Cup. He did not need a Stanley Cup to validate his legacy. His legacy is what it is, no matter what. He's one of the best wingers of this generation, one of the best pure goal scorers of all time. He didn't necessarily need that cup, but it was the one thing that people could still hold on to hold against him. And now they don't have that. Now, there's nothing to say against Alex Ovechkin, and I love how he was able to do it this year too, because so many of the things that people held against him in terms of playoff performance, they just weren't true this year. Like he showed up in big games. He played a two-way game. He played heavy. He was a really good leader. So many of the things that he's been criticized for, and personally I think unfairly criticized for, he sort of put to bed this year, and it was really fun to watch.
Yeah, and now we'll wait and see what happens with the Capitals and what the team looks like as they come into the training camp in September. I want to ask a little bit about the Vegas Golden Knights. There are some that are going to be disappointed, of course, with them coming a little bit short. It would have been a complete fairy tale story with the perfect ending if they were able to win the Stanley Cup. But this was the better team that won. Vegas, they didn't have the same level of skill and talent and superstars as the Washington Capitals did. They played really well all season. They played really well in the playoffs, but to win the Stanley Cup, you have to win 4 rounds, and they weren't able to do that. It's just a team that fell a little bit short, but you can't take anything away from a spectacular debut year.
No, definitely not. I mean, at some point you have to take a step back and look at the entire picture and look at what they were able to do, and it's still very, very impressive, and a great start and a great foundation for that franchise in Las Vegas. So you look at how they were able to have success this year, and Marc-Andre Fleury wasn't as good as he was through the first 3 rounds of the Stanley Cup final. That top line wasn't as good as they were through the first 3 rounds. So they weren't. You're right. They weren't the better team in the 4th round in the Stanley Cup final, and that's why they lost. So, but you do have to kind of step back and look at the grander picture and realize that is really special what they were able to do, no matter if they weren't able to finish the job. So, I'm interested to see kind of how it goes from here, because it felt like sort of lightning in a bottle a little bit. It felt like it was a perfect storm in terms of how things went in their first year. So I'm interested to see sort of what they're able to do in free agency, because now that's a more attractive destination. It's a fun place to live. It's a fun place to play. But I am interested to see kind of how they follow it up next year.
Yeah, and I guess that's the concern or thing we have to pay attention to. You can't have the giant drop off where they miss the playoffs and fall to the bottom of the league. I don't expect that to happen. I do expect there to be a bit of a regression in terms of their performance, because everybody's gunning for them now. Everybody's looking for them when they go to Vegas or when Vegas shows up in their building. And I'm also curious, if you go out and buy the big free agent, does that disrupt the incredible chemistry that Vegas was able to establish this year?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's going to be turnover no matter what, year to year. I'm interested to see if they make a play for Erik Karlsson. I certainly don't think that would make them a worse team. And they'll probably be in the market for a couple big free agents, because they've got money to play with, and they've got contracts coming off the books and all that. So. And they also have assets if they want to make a big splash. So, I wouldn't necessarily worry about like chemistry and things like that, because that stuff's going to happen no matter what. And again, I think that it was sort of a lightning in a bottle situation this year, where they were able to ride off that high of being the Golden Misfits and all that. I think that sort of wears off heading into next year, because, like you said, everybody's gunning for them. Everybody knows that this is a legit team. It's a legit city, and all that. Sort of the cast off sort of mentality wears off after a year.
Yeah, and that's going to be the interesting thing to watch with Vegas going forward. Pete Blackburn from CBSSports.com, at Pete Blackburn is how you follow him on Twitter, and you can check out all the great stuff he's done on the Stanley Cup final and other pieces as well. Pete, thanks for the time today. We appreciate it, and this season as well. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks for having me.
All right, Pete Blackburn from CBSSports.com. I think it's really interesting what may or may not happen with Vegas this offseason. Just thinking in the sense that, okay, so if you go get an Erik Karlsson, he's not going there, and I don't want him to go there for 1 year, so you're going to make a deal with Ottawa that gets him there. You negotiate a contract extension. If he becomes the giant, high-priced star, how does he fit in with the rest of the cast-offs from other teams teams that took place last year. Sure, that can only last for so long, but it's how you blend that together and how you move the team forward in 18-19 and in seasons belong. I think that's going to be one of the most intriguing things to watch with Vegas. Sure, they got 10, 20, $30 million in cap space or whatever. Doesn't mean you should spend all the way up to it, though. There's going to be other contracts from young players that you're going to draft and develop that are going to need to be paid in the future as well. At Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, our Twitter and Instagram handles. Final program of the 17-18 season. Sean Gentille coming up. Luke Fox from Sportsnet coming up. Jim Diamond from AP and Rinkside Report with a little Nashville Predators talk as well, all on the program, along with Chris Peters from ESPN.com, Josh Smith from Scouting the Refs, Neil Greenberg of the Washington Post, and Sean Leahy from NBC Sports Pro Hockey Talk. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis, back with more after the break.
Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis sends you to the biggest events at the best prices. This year, we've partnered with Seat Giant to give you special deals on tickets to NHL games, concerts, or other events. Simply go to SeatGiant.com, find the tickets you want. When you check out, use the promo code TODD for a special discount. That's promo code TODD for a special discount. Start saving with SeatGiant.com on your next purchase. Get your business started getting more leads. 1-844-SEO-LEAD. The number to call if you want more online leads for your business is 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Search engine optimization can be the difference between success and failure. It's no coincidence which businesses are listed first in Google searches. Call 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Now it's even easier to nominate your dog as the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day. We do it every Saturday. Send us a photo on Twitter or now on Instagram with the hashtag HU Dog of the Day. We choose a winner every Saturday. That's simple. Now on Instagram or Twitter, send us the photo using the hashtag HU Dog of the Day, and your dog could be the one added to our gallery on the website and Facebook page. It's the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day every Saturday. Cutting-edge design for manufacturing. Nova Product Design. Industrial design. Mechanical engineering and design. Nova Product Design provides experienced design for parts and assemblies, manufacturing, assembly, and serviceability. From plastic parts to sheet metal forming, mold and tool design, injection molding, and more. Nova Product Design. Visit novaproductdesign.com to learn more. So you had to get groceries, take your daughter to dance class, and a pipe burst in the kitchen. You missed Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. No problem. All of our shows are available as a podcast right after the show airs, so you can listen when life gets in the way of hearing us live. Subscribe through iTunes and get alerts as soon as the podcast is available, or go to our website, hockeyunfiltered.com, and listen. Plus, check out the other cool stuff. The Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis podcast. Subscribe now through iTunes.
Welcome back. It's Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis, Sunday edition. Final program for this season. Looking forward to a nice summer and a busy one ahead. Lots to get into today. Later on, Josh Smith from ScoutingTheRefs.com will join us. Yeah, we got questions and comments about the officiating that took place. Chris Peters from ESPN.com coming up. Sean Leahy from NBC Sports Pro Hockey Talk. Happy to welcome back our friend from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. Covers the Penguins, covers the National Hockey League. You can follow him on Twitter at Sean Gentille. And Sean joins us now. Sean, just to sort of put a wrap on the Stanley Cup from your perspective, the best team won. I don't think it was a great Stanley Cup, but what we're going to get now, I suspect, is more Alex Ovechkin versus Sidney Crosby talk going forward.
Yeah, and we're going to get a couple more good weeks, I think, of Alex Ovechkin having the Stanley Cup glued to his hands and drinking whatever he can find and causing havoc in DC. So if that's the takeaway, even after kind of a lackluster finals, like you said, you know, if that's what becomes of it, then I'm okay with it.
This celebration is quickly becoming legendary. That what we've seen from Alex Ovechkin. I mean, at the ball game yesterday, swimming in the fountain outside. You know who I really fear for is our friend Phil Pritchard, the keeper of the cup. I'm afraid that we may lose him or one of the others that handle the Stanley Cup. I'm not sure that they're prepared for this.
Honestly, like I woke up this morning and did like a wellness check for Alex Ovechkin. Like that was the first thing I thought when I opened my phone. I was like, I hope he made it. I hope he didn't end up at the bottom of the Potomac or whatever. Yeah, it's gonna be a tough stretch for Phil. I think he's earned his salary in the last few days by itself. Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt about that. So next season, when we look ahead, it will be again the focus of Washington, Pittsburgh, Stanley Cup, the last 3 Stanley Cup championship teams, Ovi and Sidney Crosby going head to head. But the other question is, who else is going to be on the Pittsburgh Penguins roster? The story that started to filter out over the last couple of weeks, I think it was sort of built into this much greater conflict than it actually is, about Phil Kessel and will he be a member of the Pittsburgh Penguins. Do you think that the Penguins move him? I just don't know that anyone's going to make them an offer that they can't refuse.
I'm generally with you. I think this all stems from the fact that Phil Kessel and Mike Sullivan is, that they don't. It's not an easy fit between the two of them. It never has been. They're different mindsets, different approach to hockey, different approach to a lot of different stuff. So the relationship between those two guys has always been complex and a little complicated. And I think that more than anything is what's driving the bus here. Do I think that they would move him if they got an offer that they liked? I think so. But at the same time, I think you really got to ask yourself, what trade could they make at this point that makes them better for next season, where they move out Phil Kessel. And you got to give Jim Rutherford credit at every turn, every move that guy has made over the last couple of years has been about maximizing the window and about maximizing the however many years of Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin's prime they have left. And I'm not sure there's a move. I'm not sure there's a trade that involves moving Phil Kessel where that happens.
And I know we talk about this a little bit, but it just doesn't seem to sink in at times. When you spend months and months together in such close quarters and close proximity, not all players are going to get along famously with their coach, and they're going to disagree over ice time and which line they should be playing on and which players they should be playing with. I just don't see this as being a hurdle that is too big to overcome for the Pittsburgh Penguins. It's just something that you have to deal with and figure out a way to move forward. Everybody has people at their office or place of work that they don't necessarily love but you have to figure out a way to get along.
I generally, I mean, like individually, I agree with you. Absolutely. I think we're at the point now with Kessel and Sullivan specifically is they've made the choice that if there's a move that involves him that makes them better in any way at all, I feel like they're gonna pull the trigger. Because again, sometimes I think this is part of being a part of maturing is people, part of just part of daily life, really. Even though sometimes you got to realize that you're not going to get along with everybody. There's also certain times where you say, like, okay, this is it. This relationship has run its course. No harm, no foul, but this is where our paths kind of diverge. And I think it's possible that they're there, but at the same time, there's nothing immediate that needs to happen. There's no super urgency. They're not going to trade Phil Kessel for 60 cents on the dollar, but I think there is kind of a recognition that, they're about at the end of their rope as far as their relationship is concerned. And I think that's fine. I don't think there's any hard feelings necessarily. It's just not a super easy fit, but between Phil and Sullivan, I think that's just sort of what it comes down to.
Yeah, fair enough. Our guest is Sean Gentille from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. At Sean Gentille is how you follow him on Twitter. Jim Rutherford did say in his year-end media availability that there will be changes next year to the Pittsburgh Penguins roster. So I'm kind of curious as to what some of those changes might be moving forward. I think it could be interesting. I don't know that it's a giant upheaval, but there's probably a few things that are going to happen with Pittsburgh and some of them might surprise people.
Absolutely. I think there's moves to be made. Like, they're in one sense they're locked in. They have a lot of guys signed for next year in terms of RFAs. You know, they got to figure out Brian Rust. There's some other, Jamie Alexiak is a guy they're gonna have to figure out what their plans are with him for an extension. But that's small level stuff. When you talk about changes, you're talking about trades, and you look at guys like Connor Sherry, who makes $3 million a year, and Carl Hagelin, who makes more than $4 million a year and is going into the last year of his contract. Those guys by themselves, by virtue of their price tag alone, are guys who, if you whatever find some fit for them, just by virtue of moving their salaries out, you're going to be able to do something. You're going to be able to get creative. So even though there's on some level Rutherford's locked in to his roster, there's money there that can be moved around. And if you move out Sherry and say you move out Hagelin, all of a sudden, you're talking about Jim Rutherford with $7 or $8 million more in cap space, and then stuff gets really interesting. So yeah, I think there's some space for him to work, and I'd be surprised, honestly, if he didn't use it.
And you also want to make room, I think, for a player like Daniel Sprong to give him a real opportunity to be on the team moving forward next season.
That's a big part of the Kessel discussion. It really is, because I don't think Mike Sullivan can handle mentally having Daniel Sprong and Phil Kessel in the lineup at the same time. That sounds. But Kessel drove Sullivan crazy to some degree, and Sullivan flat refused to play Sprong down the line. He had Dominic Simone playing on a top line in the playoffs with Sidney Crosby. So there's an issue, but Sullivan is clearly skeptical of Sprong, and it's his defensive game, and it's all that sort of stuff, and it's really hard to envision a scenario where he plays both of those guys at the same time. He had a chance to do it this past season, and he didn't really pull the trigger on it. So yeah, I think Sprong's presence really just adds to the Kessel intrigue, if nothing else.
So if you're looking to improve your defensive game, also, do you not have to look at improving the defense core in the Pittsburgh Penguins? Because it's not all it should be for a top level team.
Certainly not. I think that's where their biggest problem lies. Really, is that you have, Matt Hunwick's first season in Pittsburgh did not go according to plan. They signed him for 3 years. They spent more than $2 million a year. By the end of the season, he wasn't consistently in the lineup. So that's an issue. They need to figure out whether he can improve, or if that's a scenario where you package him as part of something else, or maybe you buy him out. You need to figure out what you have there. Because really, what you're talking about is a team that had Chad Ruhwedel and Matt Hunwick as their fifth and sixth and seventh defensemen, and that's just not good enough. They have found money in Jamie Alexiak. I think he was better than most people anticipated. They acquired him from Dallas, but there isn't a lot coming up through the system. They don't have any ready-made solutions, and I think defense, is where their most obvious room for improvement lies. And I think really that's what you're talking about if you were to move out of Sherry, if you were to move out of Hagelin, I think the money that you'd free up with that would have to go towards addressing the defense in one way or another. Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's difficult because you've got a number of defense. Matt Hunwick, you mentioned, is under contract. Chris Letang is under contract, and again, I'm not questioning him, but he's only going to give you so much defensively. So he's got to have the right partner with him, and that's the other part is you've got to build the right kind of defenseman to pair to one another.
Yeah, I think, on a lot of levels, I think their top four is fine. I fully expect Letang to be better next year than he was this past season. I think Brian Dumoulin took a big jump forward this year. Justin Schultz in the role that they have him is fine. I think Olli Maatta had a little bit of a bounce back year. So that top four, and really the really five, if depending on how much you like Jamie Alexiak, I think it's fine. Where it really then there's a drop off. Like Hunwick, like I said, wasn't good enough, and Chad Ruhwedel is a spare part, and they don't have any other options. So even if you like their top four, possibly their top five, at minimum they have to add one other legitimate, second or third pairing guy. Absolutely, and I think they'd be the first to say that.
Going to be an interesting offseason. That's Sean Gentille from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, at Sean Gentille to follow him on Twitter. Good stuff as always, Sean. We appreciate it. Look forward to talking to you again soon.
Todd, absolutely, buddy. Another good season with you here.
Cheers. Thanks. Have a great summer. Sean Gentille from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. It's a busy Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis, our final edition of the 2017-18 season. Jim Diamond, before the top of the hour, will give us the latest on the Nashville Predators. Yes, those Stanley Cup finalist Nashville Predators that were eliminated by the Winnipeg Jets this year. Luke Fox from Sportsnet.ca coming up in the next segment as well. More on the Stanley Cup final. And of course, because the world revolves around the Toronto Maple Leafs, we'll touch on that as well. Also ahead, Chris Peters, lots on the NHL draft. Josh Smith on officiating from scoutingtherefs.com. Neil Greenberg from the Washington Post, and Sean Leahy from NBC Sports Pro Hockey Talk. It's all coming up. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis continues after the break.
Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis sends you to the biggest events at the best prices. This year, we've partnered with Seat Giant to give you special deals on tickets to NHL games, concerts, or other events. Simply go to SeatGiant.com, find the tickets you want. When you check out, use the promo code TODD for a special discount. That's promo code TODD for a special discount. Start saving with SeatGiant.com on your next purchase. Get your business started getting more leads. 1-844-SEO-LEAD. The number to call if you want more online leads for your business is 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Search engine optimization can be the difference between success and failure. It's no coincidence which businesses are listed first in Google searches. Call 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Now it's even easier to nominate your dog as the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day. We do it every Saturday. Send us a photo on Twitter or now on Instagram with the hashtag HU Dog of the Day. We choose a winner every Saturday. That's simple. Now on Instagram or Twitter, send us the photo using the hashtag HU Dog of the Day, and your dog could be the one added to our gallery on the website and Facebook page. It's the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day every Saturday. Cutting-edge design for manufacturing. Nova Product Design. Industrial design. Mechanical engineering and design. Nova Product Design provides experienced design for parts and assemblies, manufacturing, assembly, and serviceability. From plastic parts to sheet metal forming, mold and tool design, injection molding, and more. Nova Product Design. Visit novaproductdesign.com to learn more. So you had to get groceries, take your daughter to dance class, and a pipe burst in the kitchen. You missed Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. No problem. All of our shows are available as a podcast right after the show airs, so you can listen when life gets in the way of hearing us live. Subscribe through iTunes and get alerts as soon as the podcast is available, or go to our website, hockeyunfiltered.com, and listen. Plus, check out the other cool stuff. The Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis podcast. Subscribe now through iTunes.
Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis, Sunday edition. Final program of the season continues, and a busy one. Sean Leahy from NBC Sports Pro Hockey Talk will join us. Neil Greenberg of the Washington Post. Josh Smith from scoutingtherefs.com. A lot of ground to cover today. At Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, our Twitter and Instagram handles. You can comment through live on our Facebook page as well. Happy to welcome back to the program columnist for Sportsnet.ca. You can follow him on Twitter at Luke Fox Jukebox, and Luke joins us now. First question I want to ask you, Luke, is I saw some of the photos that you had on your Twitter timeline and like, what's it like being out on the ice after the Stanley Cup has been won and awarded and witnessing the celebration and the mayhem and chaos that's going on?
It's the best part of the job. Easy. It's unbelievable. It's so cool. We're so used to going into locker rooms and guys are just standing there giving you, rote cliche answers. But to be able to go out on the ice, the families are out there, there's kids out there, there's swarms of media, everyone's kind of scattered. It's mayhem, but it's like the happiest mayhem. You see people hugging, you see people crying. They give you real answers because it's just this big cathartic release, this thing that they've been trying for, and especially this year, 44 years for this franchise, Ovi's whole career, so much disappointment, and it's just sort of this outpouring of happiness, and it's so cool to see. You just see, guys will take different turns grabbing the cup, pulling over their wives or kids or moms or dads or whoever they have there, and they're posing with the cup. Babies are getting dropped in the cup for photo ops, and the guys are just, they just kind of let it all out. They tell you about how hard it's been and how happy they are to have finally done it. And they talk about, maybe a coach that helped them along the way when they were younger, or they talk about their teammates. And it's really an awesome thing to see. It's kind of a rare, like really cool privilege, even though you're not part of it, just to be that close and to witness it. So, I was just snapping away with my iPhone just to try and capture a little bits of it.
Well, you did a great job capturing it, and just from your comments, it really seems like, and this is what I thought, the walls kind of come down a little bit. You don't have to, for players or coaches, give the answer that, well, we had a bad bounce go against us, and we've got to rally. You can be genuine in your comments and your approach, and because it's such a great moment in their life, you can celebrate with your full enthusiasm and not worrying about how it's going to be perceived. Yes, absolutely. A few of us got Barry Trotz. There were maybe like 4 reporters, and he was just being so honest. And during the Cup, the Capitals he called it, they were caving it, meaning they got a suite in the hotel they were staying at, and no one left. No one went down to the casino. No one partied at all. No one even went to a restaurant. They just had food brought in and played a bunch of video games. I guess Mario Kart is popular with a bunch of the players. So I asked Barry, I said, are you going to be caving it tonight? And he said, no. He said, I'm going old school. He said, that first one is going to taste like the finish. And I just love that as a hockey coach, because hockey coaches, by and large, they play it by the book, and just, what Barry Trotz has been through, like himself, just years of never getting past the second round, and free of the contract worry. They finally beat Pittsburgh, the whole journey, and just that he was able to, give a beautiful quote like that. He's just going to party, and he deserves it. And it's just so good to see that kind of emotion and that honesty at a moment like that. Yeah, and for Barry Trotz in that moment, did you get a sense of whether or not he will come back to the Washington Capitals next year? Because I know there's been lots of talk about how come he didn't get a contract, should they offer him a contract? I think it's always been in his court. He's going to be the one that decides whether he comes back in the fall. Well, I think his job was on the line. I think maybe they would have made a move mid-season. Things started to go sour, especially they did a trip where they lost to Nashville and Colorado on the road back to back, and some real horrible losses. And
then they had like a team meeting, and basically I was talking to Matt Niskanen about this during the final series, and he said that basically Barry read them the riot act. Like it's like, enough. We need to try harder. Like that team is loaded with skill, but they had a bit of a work ethic problem and a bit of a mental problem, and feeling sorry for themselves, or feeling like they were somehow doomed, that they would never get out of the division because of Pittsburgh. And it was like, enough's enough. We can do this. And they started to turn things around, and they went on a winning streak. They, of course, won their division. And, I think at that point, it became Barry's decision. He can't fire a coach that's winning the division. And I think they were all prepared to give the reins to Todd, who runs the defense. And he got promoted from assistant coach to associate coach. And then they prevented him from interviewing with teams the previous offseason. So it was kind of, the writing was on the wall, and the fact they didn't extend Barry. But now the guy delivers the only Stanley Cup in franchise history. So it's his ticket to write. It's up to him. Brian McClellan can't let him walk now. He'll look like foolish, right? So it's all on Barry. And Barry said he wanted to take a few days to just enjoy this, and understandably so. So it might come down to money. It might come down to fit. But one thing he did say is that, he has a son who has special needs, and he has a really good school program in the Washington area. So I think he's a bit hesitant, for family reasons. It's been a good fit. Professionally, I think he was probably had his feelings hurt by it that he wasn't extended, and there was probably a bit of a rift between him and the GM. But winning can solve everything, and it would be hard for the team to walk away from a cup-winning coach. But it's probably going to be hard for a coach to walk away from such a group that's so talented and that he's grown tight with. So he's a kind of guy that really stresses creating a family atmosphere on the teams he's on. And we know from how long he stayed in Nashville that he's not a mercenary. He doesn't want to jump from team to team. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. But it's all Trotz's decision right now.
Yeah, going to be interesting to follow. Luke Fox is our guest from Sportsnet.ca. At Luke Fox is the Twitter handle to follow him along. Just before we leave the Cup final, the Vegas show was spectacular on television. I can't imagine how good it was to see inside the building.
It was awesome. It was fantastic. I know some people thought it went on a bit too long. It's like, hey, puck drop's supposed to be at 8 p.m. Eastern, and we're still watching medieval times here. Let's go. But I think it's awesome. I think it's great that Vegas is being Vegas. Like, you wouldn't want the Vegas to pretend to be Winnipeg or another city. They do it their way, and it's a lot of fun there. And it's loud. It's crazy loud. And the one thing I noticed especially during this playoff run, I got the privilege of going to Nashville, of going to Winnipeg, of going to Boston, Toronto, and a few different cities. The one thing about Vegas fans, and it's probably because they haven't been through the disappointment that some other fan bases have, is when their team gets down, they don't go quiet. Like Winnipeg was definitely loud, but they go down 2-0, and it's a library in there. Not so with Vegas. even when they were trailing, they were positive and optimistic and were cheering on their team, and they didn't need the scoreboard to tell them to do so. So it's, I think it really, what they accomplished this year against all odds has turned that city very quickly into a hockey camp. You walk anywhere and you see flags and banners and people wearing night shirts. Like, they got it right, and they really captured the imagination of the city. So it'll be interesting to see. It'll be a challenge to get back here. Maybe years before they get back this far, but to have the right attitude among the fan base.
Yeah, it was a great first year, and I'm anxious to see how they follow it up in year 2 and beyond. Let's shift gears and stuff, because we're into the off season now, and the Maple Leafs have made a change at general manager. Kyle Dubas is in, and boy, is he under unbelievable scrutiny and will be for some time. I'm anxious to see how every move he makes is going to be reviewed and perceived, and unless it is a resounding success, I imagine there's going to be incredible criticism. but he seems like he's got a pretty thick skin and he'll be able to handle it. So there's Luke did a piece in the last little while that's just gone up on Sportsnet.ca talking about what should be next for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Yes, defense, but does that come before the contract extensions that are necessary for some of their forwards and some of their talented young players? I'm not sure where the first piece of business is for Kyle Dubas.
Yeah, well, I think it starts with the Austin Matthews contract, but the draft weekend is the big one for trade. So I think the Leafs will be in the mix in trade talks before that, because Matthews can't technically sign until July 1. But that's going to be the major contract. I think Matthews gets done before Nylander, who is a restricted free agent. But I think just the way Edmonton signed Connor McDavid last summer before they tackled Leon Draisaitl, I would imagine that Dubas starts with Matthews, starts at the top, and then starts working on Nylander, who's an RFA, and that'll be an interesting contract too. With the salary cap going up as it's projected to, and with Toronto being such a rich market for sponsorship opportunities, and for Matthews to, he's not as good as McDavid, but in terms of revenue, he can bring a lot in just because he can be in the face of a lot of advertisers and a lot of people. And I would expect that he'll be asking for as much as McDavid got, even though McDavid had won a Hart Trophy in a scoring race and a playoff round by the time he signed that. I think Matthews' group isn't going to mess around, and they're going to be shooting for that kind of money. So that'll be really interesting. And for a rookie GM, I know he studied under Lou, who's probably the best guy to study under. But for a young guy, rookie GM, to be tasked with trying to get the money right and the term right on a guy like Matthews, it's going to be really interesting. And it's going to be quite the first test. And then you got to look at trades as well, because if that Boston series proved anything, it was that what we suspected all along, which is the Toronto blue line isn't good enough. And there's not a lot of big right shots on the free agent market besides John Carlson, who does want to stay in Washington. So they might have to look at a blockbuster trade. So it's going to be a really interesting summer for Leafs Nation.
Yeah, it is, and there will be a lot of talk and discussion and speculation that goes along with it. Luke Fox from Sportsnet.ca, at Luke Fox Jukebox, to follow him on Twitter. Thanks for the time, as always, Luke. I appreciate it. Have a great summer. We'll talk again soon, I'm sure.
Yeah, have a great summer, Todd. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Luke Fox from Sportsnet.ca. I think the solutions for the Maple Leafs are coming from within. I know there's going to be a lot of talk about, Oliver Ekman-Larsson, Drew Doughty. I don't think that's where the fix is for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Yeah, they need defensive help, but I think it comes from within and from smaller trades, not the big splash in that direction. At Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, our Twitter and Instagram handle. Screaming along in a busy hour number one. Jim Diamond, talking Nashville Predators, will join us right after the break. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis, back with much more to take you up through the top of the hour.
Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis sends you to the biggest events at the best prices. This year, we've partnered with Seat Giant to give you special deals on tickets to NHL games, concerts, or other events. Simply go to SeatGiant.com, find the tickets you want. When you check out, use the promo code TODD for a special discount. That's promo code TODD for a special discount. Start saving with SeatGiant.com on your next purchase. Get your business started getting more leads. 1-844-SEO-LEAD. The number to call if you want more online leads for your business is 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Search engine optimization can be the difference between success and failure. It's no coincidence which businesses are listed first in Google searches. Call 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Now it's even easier to nominate your dog as the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day. We do it every Saturday. Send us a photo on Twitter or now on Instagram with the hashtag HU Dog of the Day. We choose a winner every Saturday. That's simple. Now on Instagram or Twitter, send us the photo using the hashtag HU Dog of the Day, and your dog could be the one added to our gallery on the website and Facebook page. It's the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day every Saturday. Cutting-edge design for manufacturing. Nova Product Design. Industrial design. Mechanical engineering and design. Nova Product Design provides experienced design for parts and assemblies, manufacturing, assembly, and serviceability. From plastic parts to sheet metal forming, mold and tool design, injection molding, and more. Nova Product Design. Visit novaproductdesign.com to learn more. So you had to get groceries, take your daughter to dance class, and a pipe burst in the kitchen. You missed Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. No problem. All of our shows are available as a podcast right after the show airs, so you can listen when life gets in the way of hearing us live. Subscribe through iTunes and get alerts as soon as the podcast is available, or go to our website, hockeyunfiltered.com, and listen. Plus, check out the other cool stuff, the Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis podcast. Subscribe now through iTunes.
Sunday edition of Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. It's our final program for this season. Then we're off on a little summer hiatus and a busy one. Lots to get into. Sean Leahy from NBC Sports Pro Hockey Talk will join us. Josh Smith from scoutingtherefs.com. All that and much more coming up in the next hour. Also wanted to take a few minutes to revisit the Nashville Predators, eliminated from the postseason by the Winnipeg Jets, and a lot of interest in what might be happening with the Nashville Predators coming up over the summer before we get started with play again in the fall. Jim Diamond covers the Preds for AP and Rinkside Report. Follow him on Twitter at Diamond Hockey, and Jim joins us now. Jim, right after the season, there was some comments about who won't be coming back to the Predators next year. Scott Hartnell, Alexei Emelin, and we're not going to have Mike Fisher back again. So who, in your mind, might be getting more ice time, and who might the type of player the Preds are looking at be in control?
I think up front, there's no question that Eeli Tolvanen will get every opportunity to not only get ice time, but get a lot of it. Much heralded, draft pick, and what he did over in Europe and with the Finnish national teams this year is kind of widely publicized. So, they brought him over. He got into a couple of regular season games, didn't get in any playoff action. So, I think they'll be giving him every opportunity to see what he can do. When he has just a regular off season and a regular training camp, as opposed to all the flying back and forth over the Atlantic that he did this year.
Now, is this going to be the internal method of looking at how the Nashville Predators rosters and evolves for next year, Tolvanen being one? I'm not sure that that you want to make a lot of change necessarily, but I think you want to look at opportunities for other players. Does Ryan Hartman have another role coming back next year?
I think he will be back. He's a restricted free agent, and they gave up a first-round pick to get him. So they already have quite a bit invested in him, even though it will turn out to be a late first-round pick. But I think he kind of had his ups and downs in his brief time, with the Predators this season. But they think, with him being a young player and maybe getting a full year under his belt, that he will have an opportunity to play. I mean, obviously it'll be probably on one of the bottom two lines, although he did move up and down the lineup a little bit and showed that he could score, when called upon. But just with the firepower the Predators have on their first couple of lines, he'll likely be a third, fourth line guy, and that's not a knock on him. It's just a tribute to how much the Predators have up front and how what he can contribute. He can play many different styles, including kind of a rough edge to his game, and with the Predators, we'll probably need him to do that.
Yeah, it's just occasionally he went over the edge, and that was the maturing part that I think needs to take place. But I like what he can bring in that. You're right, he'd probably play on the third line, but if you need and want to shuffle things up, he doesn't look out of place if you move him up to the second line, and giving the Predators options in terms of what their line combinations are for Peter Laviolette, I think is a positive thing.
Sure, and with Hartnell and Fisher not being back, that they need somebody that can play on the physical side. I mean, sure, sometimes you're going to go over the edge, but I think that's something that can be reined in a little bit. And it wasn't like he was just completely out of control every time he got on the ice. But yeah, Peter Laviolette can work with him and the rest of the coaching staff and the veteran players here. And I think just having the comfort of having a full season and knowing where he is and knowing his role should allow him to settle in a little bit more this season.
A couple of other areas to talk about with the Nashville Predators, one being on defense. The Preds defense is wonderful and has been terrific for a number of years. Now we're reaching the point where the Ryan Ellis is going to need a new contract. He's been a great bargain for a while, and I'm just not sure how the next contract for Ryan Ellis plays into the future of other defensemen on the roster. PK Subban, there are some trying to generate trade speculation with his name again because he's a big ticket item.
Yeah, what city was that speculation coming out of?
Yeah, exactly. The center of the universe.
Yeah. I understand the talk, but Ellis has got a contract for this season, and both he and the Predators have said that they want to get something done. So nothing can be official until July 1st. So that's definitely something. I think with when we look at the combination of the salary cap going up, we don't have a final number on that as best I know just yet. And Pekka Rinne has 1 year left at $7 million on his contract. We're not sure what they're going to do goaltending wise going forward, but UC Saros is an RFA this year, but I think there'll be some money available. You have Yossi due in 2 years. So I'm not sure there's reason to panic and think that they won't be able to get everyone back under contract. The thing about the Predators is, yes, they rely heavily on their top four defensemen, but they have their 5, 6, 7 defensemen basically making league minimum. So that kind of saves them some money over the long term when you're looking at the big picture. So I think David Poile will find a way to get this done, and I do not expect PK Subban to be traded this offseason, much to the chagrin of others.
Yeah, I'm fully of that same belief as well. And you mentioned the Pekka Rinne situation. You're right. It's next year. He's locked in for 7, and it'll be interesting to see where the Preds go. Jussi Saros looks like he's ready to step in and be the goaltender of the future. It's just a question of how long that's going to take.
Sure, and I wouldn't rule out Rinne coming back, even if it is in a diminished role or a 50-50 role, until they decide on who their number one is, going toward the playoffs, in years beyond next year. But even if it's Rinne or somebody else, I don't think you're going to have, $8-9 million invested in your goaltenders like you probably will this year, depending on what number Saros ends up at. So. They work very well together. Saros lived with Rinne his first year in Nashville. Saros' father is even named Pekka, so it's an easy transition. I don't think there would be any ego bruising or anything on Rinne if he was to be kind of given a little bit of a scaled back role. He loves Nashville and has been here the entirety of his career. So I think he's 35 now, so he probably has a few miles left on those tires, even though they're ridden pretty hard, especially in the earlier years. But I don't see him not coming back if he doesn't want to, and if they express an interest in bringing him back.
Jim Diamond covering the Nashville Predators for AP and Rinkside Report at Diamond Hockey is how you follow him on Twitter. Good stuff. Appreciate this as always, Jim. Have a great summer, and we'll talk soon.
All right, sounds good. Always good to talk, my friend.
Appreciate it. Jim Diamond covering the Nashville Predators. It does seem like it will be an easy transition. Pekka Rinne will scale back. Maybe he extends a year or two in a reduced role. It's a 50-50 kind of year for 1 or 2 until Jussi Saros proves that he can be the number one goaltender, and it should be a pretty seamless passing of the baton. First hour has screamed by on this edition of Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. Our season finale coming up in hour number 2. Chris Peters from ESPN.com with lots on the draft. Josh Smith from scoutingtherefs.com, Neil Greenberg of the Washington Post, and Sean Leahy, our friend from NBC Sports Pro Hockey Talk. That is all straight ahead at Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, our Twitter and Instagram handles. It's a busy end of season show, wrapping up the Stanley Cup final, the celebration that seems as though it's going to continue right from the end of the game through the parade and maybe beyond on Tuesday. I fear for our friend Phil Pritchard, the keeper of the cup. Hopefully he and everyone are safe. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis, back after the break.
Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis sends you to the biggest events at the best prices. This year, we've partnered with Seat Giant to give you special deals on tickets to NHL games, concerts, or other events. Simply go to SeatGiant.com, find the tickets you want. When you check out, use the promo code TODD for a special discount. That's promo code TODD for a special discount. Start saving with SeatGiant.com on your next purchase. Get your business started getting more leads. 1-844-SEO-LEAD. The number to call if you want more online leads for your business is 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Search engine optimization can be the difference between success and failure. It's no coincidence which businesses are listed first in Google searches. Call 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Now it's even easier to nominate your dog as the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day. We do it every Saturday. Send us a photo on Twitter or now on Instagram with the hashtag HU Dog of the Day. We choose a winner every Saturday. That's simple. Now on Instagram or Twitter, send us the photo using the hashtag HU Dog of the Day, and your dog could be the one added to our gallery on the website and Facebook page. It's the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day every Saturday. Cutting-edge design for manufacturing, Nova Product Design. Industrial design, mechanical engineering and design. Nova Product Design provides experienced design for parts and assemblies, manufacturing, assembly, and serviceability. From plastic parts to sheet metal forming, mold and tool design, injection molding, and more. Nova Product Design. Visit novaproductdesign.com to learn more. So you had to get groceries, take your daughter to dance class, and a pipe burst in the kitchen. You missed Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. No problem. All of our shows are available as a podcast right after the show airs, so you can listen when life gets in the way of hearing us live. Subscribe through iTunes and get alerts as soon as the podcast is available, or go to our website, hockeyunfiltered.com, and listen. Plus, check out the other cool stuff. The Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis podcast. Subscribe now through iTunes.
This is Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis.
Final hour of the Sunday program, final hour for us this season. Been a great year. Busy hour straight ahead as well with a lot to get into. Chris Peters from ESPN.com will join us in just a couple of minutes. Talk about the upcoming NHL draft in Dallas. Who's going first overall? I think that's pretty much been determined. It's starting to shake out in the subsequent picks and whatever else is going on. We'll talk with Chris about that and much more. Our friend Josh Smith from scoutingtherefs.com. Boy, I had a few things to say about the officiating during the postseason, so we'll talk to Josh about that and what we might look for in terms of improvement going forward. Neil Greenberg from the Washington Post as well. Maybe some numbers, maybe some stats and stuff about the Washington Capitals and their Stanley Cup win over the Vegas Golden Knights. Hopefully there's not too much math involved. And Sean Leahy from NBC Sports Pro Hockey Talk as well, also coming up. At Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, our Twitter and Instagram handles. The celebration continues to rage for the Washington Capitals. It was something yesterday, taking the Stanley Cup to the ballpark for the Nationals games, and Ovi with perhaps the worst ever ceremonial first pitch, sailing it right to the backstop. It was awesome. He and a few of the Caps decided to stay for the game. Had a few sips of a beer. Well, they crushed a whole bunch of beers through the game. As a matter of fact, had a little dip in the fountain outside afterwards. Who knows what antics the Washington Capitals will get up to with the Stanley Cup today? I'm glad that the celebration continues. Hangover 4, the cup wins. It's a movie. I'm telling you. You win the Stanley Cup in Vegas. You got to make it to the parade. You got to fight your way through all that's occurred in the celebrations. Hilarity would ensue. The Hangover Part 4, Stanley Cup victory. I could see it. TJ Oshie finally makes it to the parade by taking the subway to get to the starting point with the Stanley Cup. I can absolutely see this happening. It sounds perfectly valid to me. I don't know. I'm fearful for the safety of our friend Phil Pritchard and the rest of those in charge of looking after the Stanley Cup. I hope they're up. They've done some incredible things over the years, but this may test their patience, their tolerance, and a few other things as well. Coming up in a couple of weeks, though, it's the NHL entry draft. It's a chance for teams to select talented young players to become part of their team. It's also an opportunity where a bunch of deals are discussed and some consummated. Chris Peters from ESPN.com covers the NHL draft, covers NHL prospects. You can follow him on Twitter at Chris M. Peters. Chris, I think we can say for sure that we know who the first overall choice is going to be for the Buffalo Sabres. Rasmus Dahlin, he just seems to fit perfectly. He's clearly the best player, and boy, is he going to look good in a Buffalo Sabres jersey.
Yeah, he certainly is. I think it's a chance for fans to feel excited again for a little bit, kind of like they did after Jack Eichel got drafted. But I think that a lot of people underestimated the amount of work that was left to be done there, and the way that the work was being done there. So I think it helps to have Rasmus Dahlin, but it also helps to have Jason Botterill at the helm. I think he's a steady hand and has a good vision for this team, and to be able to add a piece like Dahlin right off the bat, right in your second year as the general manager, I think that's a really good place for Jason Botterill to be in. He's great money manager as well. So he's going to be able to stretch Terry Pagula's dollars under the salary cap when the time comes and when the moves are the right to be made. But obviously, very exciting to see Rasmus Dahlin in that mix and part of that young core.
Yeah, and it's you mentioned Jack Eichel, and that of course was the Connor McDavid year. I just think that was so poorly handled by the Buffalo Sabres, and maybe that was really one of the bigger reasons why the administration was changed. That you're getting this fantastic player. You're right, you didn't get Connor McDavid, but you know what? You're getting this tremendous player, and I don't think that was projected well enough and sold well enough to their fan base.
Yeah, I think that the fans took it pretty well. Certainly there was way a lot of hype of Connor McDavid. They even had an Erie Otters game at their stadium in his draft year. I was there as well in the American Prospects game. And it's really, it was kind of set up for disappointment almost, whereas this is a consolation prize as opposed to the savior. And I think that Jack Eichel, if he gets the support that he needs there, is going to flourish in this league. I think he's a really talented player, and will have the opportunity. But now, you add Rasmus Dahlin, and it takes some of the pressure off of Eichel, which I think is really important, because now you've got a guy that can be, your number one defenseman. Takes pressure off of Rasmus Ristolainen as well. If they're able to hang on to him, or if they want to hang on to him, and kind of start building that D-core. They don't need to play him 27 minutes a night anymore, which is going to help his game grow as well. So, it's just, I think that what we're learning now is that Buffalo had so much more to do, and there was definitely a culture problem, and may still be a culture problem that they're going to have to address over time. Phil Housley's only been in there for a year to kind of try and adjust that. But you start injecting new blood, and you start changing the dynamic a little bit of the dressing room. You start changing the dynamic of and the feel of the franchise, and that's something that Buffalo needs as much as anything. As much as talent, they need this kind of culture shock and guys that are going to come in there and help them right away. So I think that's part of what will be happening here in the next couple of weeks as well.
It's also looking like Andrei Svechnikov is going to be the number 2 choice. Now, is that the right fit for the number 2 team selecting Carolina Hurricanes, or is that something that they maybe want to look at and exploring in terms of other needs for that franchise?
Yeah, well, I think some of the things that they've kind of been talking about is this desire to want to be bigger, to be tougher to play against. I think Andrei Svechnikov is very tough to play against. He's a strong forward. He's got a power game. He goes to the hard areas. He plays a physical brand of hockey. A tremendous shot, and he's a natural goal scorer. Kind of maybe if they decide that Jeff Skinner is kind of a guy that they don't need anymore. I think you'd rather have both of them, but at the same time, it gives you a little bit more freedom in terms of players that you might be dangling out there to try and get more help. But I think that he brings too much of that goal scoring element. To me, the clear number 2 prospect. I think it's certainly a drop off from Dahlin, but still a quality prospect that's going to make a massive impact and bring size, strength, physicality, and obviously the goal scoring touch that they're going to bank on. So, I think in terms of fit, it works out well. I think they've kind of probably toyed with the idea of maybe a Brady Tkachuk and adding more of a nastier element. But if it's between the two of them, I think it's Svechnikov all day, just because he is an elite scoring winger, and you cannot, you can't pass that up when you have the opportunity to add a player of his quality.
Is he ready to play next year?
I think he is. I think he is. He's physically stronger. He lost some time this year with a broken, I believe it was a broken hand or a hand injury that cost him some time. And then he came back, and it was like he missed no time at all. He's just seamlessly in there. I think he's a dominant player at the OHL level. It'd be very difficult, for him to kind of make that, to stay there again and, maybe be like a 60 goal scorer next year if he can stay healthy. I think that they have to be cautious, though. You obviously, this is a very important pick for your team. His development is extremely important. He's been in North America for the last 2 years as well. So I think that's part of the reason that the transition is going to be a little bit easier for him. He speaks English, although at the combine he was using an interpreter, but I know he speaks English, and he understands English very well. So that's not that worrisome of a transition point. And then it's just his physical frame is ready for the NHL. He has an NHL shot already. I think it's just a matter of his ability to play at the pace, and certainly he deserves that 9-game tryout at the very least. And if not that, I have a hard time seeing them sending him back after he goes through that.
Third on the list of draft selection as it stands right now. This is subject to change, of course, before Friday the 22nd. But is it? I'm really puzzled as to what Marc Bergevin is thinking. I'm puzzled about what Marc Bergevin is thinking most of the time, because I disagree with almost every move he's made. But I'm not sure where he's going to go with that third pick. And quite frankly, I'm a little puzzled about what Carolina might do as well. Where do you see the greatest need for Montreal? It's at center, but is there a center that you're going to want to take at third, or are you going to want to try to move down and add another asset?
Yeah, it seems like the general consensus out there is that Montreal wants a center. And, the number one center in this draft is Jesperi Kotkaniemi, who's a fantastic player. I would not take him over Philip Zadina. I wouldn't take him over Brady Tkachuk. I wouldn't even take him over Quinn Hughes. There are a lot of guys that I would have ahead of him on my list. And I wouldn't be surprised if Montreal decides, let's try to trade back. And maybe go after one of the puck-moving defensemen that'll be available among the top 10. I don't think you want to drop too far back, otherwise you're going to start losing kind of that impact prospect. I think Kotkaniemi is an impact prospect, a guy that could come in and be one of their top prospects right away, even if they took him at third. I just think that's kind of a tough place to be. You tend not to draft for need. You want to take the best player available, and if you're going to pass up Philip Zadina just because you want a center, it sends a strange message to your fan base, as that that you're a little bit too comfortable with what you already have if you're going to go draft for need as opposed to the best player available. So they really do have the opportunity to blow up the whole thing. I'm going to be doing a mock draft not this week but next week, and that's the one that I'm fretting. I don't know what they're going to do. Marc Bergevin is a wild card, and that pick has the potential to blow up the whole thing. So it could be really interesting to see what they do there.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what you come up with for that. I'll be looking for it on ESPN.com. And you mentioned Quinn Hughes. I wanted to ask you about him. This could be the start of a lot of big things for Quinn Hughes and family.
Yeah, great family. Obviously, Quinn, an exceptional defenseman, undersized, but to me, the best skater in this draft and one of the best skating defensemen I've seen in some years, just in terms of his lateral mobility, his quickness, and his unpredictability with his feet. Then you got Jack Hughes as well, and Jack's probably going to be the number 1 pick next year. He fell 1 point shy of Austin Matthews' single season scoring record at the National Team Development Program, but Matthews was a year older when he broke that record. And Jack is he did it in his U17 season. The only guy that he basically beat that point total by 30 points. It was Phil Kessel and Clayton Keller had 87 points in their U17 season, and Jack had 116, so not quite 30. But he was really he's a special player. And then there's another one too. There's Luke Hughes, who just committed to the University of Michigan. He's only he may have just turned 15. Very good defenseman for the Little Caesars AAA program. Has a lot of the same qualities as Quinn Hughes, and they come from great parents, Jim and Ellen, who both played hockey at the college level, and Ellen was actually a national team player for the women's team in the early days there, and apparently that's where they get their skating from, because she was an exceptional skater. So a great family, and I think a great story for the draft. And to me, Quinn Hughes is the number 2 defenseman behind Rasmus Dahlin. I know that there's a lot of variance in opinions out there, but that's been my opinion from the beginning of the season, and I only think he's gotten better as the season has wore on, and played in the World Championship and held himself really well. So I think Quinn Hughes is an exceptional talent, and really we'll get the family started off on the right foot with an early draft pick this year, and then we'll see what happens with Jack next year and Luke further down the line. But a very talented group of hockey players in the Hughes family.
That's Chris Peters from ESPN.com, at Chris M. Peters to follow him on Twitter. We'll be looking for the mock draft and much more from him as we get closer to the NHL draft in Dallas. Chris, thanks for this. Great stuff as always. Have a good summer. Have fun at the draft. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks a lot, Todd. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Thanks, Chris Peters from ESPN.com. I'm petrified as to what Marc Bergevin might be thinking or doing after what we've seen from Marc Bergevin and the horrible mistakes he's made for the Montreal Canadiens. Who knows what may lie in store for the Montreal Canadiens? Funnily enough, it was yesterday, the 25th anniversary of the Montreal Canadiens' last Stanley Cup victory in 1993. Patrice Brisebois organized a nice big reunion and get-together for the boys yesterday in Montreal. At Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, Twitter and Instagram handles. Lots to get into. Oh, look, our friend Josh Smith from ScoutingTheRest.com is coming up next. Oh, yeah, we're going to talk about refs and officiating and much more. Neil Greenberg coming up as well, and Sean Leahy from NBC Sports Pro Hockey Talk. Back with much more right after the break.
Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis sends you to the biggest events at the best prices. This year, we've partnered with Seat Giant to give you special deals on tickets to NHL games, concerts, or other events. Simply go to SeatGiant.com, find the tickets you want. When you check out, use the promo code TODD for a special discount. That's promo code TODD for a special discount. Start saving with SeatGiant.com on your next purchase. Get your business started getting more leads. 1-844-SEO-LEAD. The number to call if you want more online leads for your business is 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Search engine optimization can be the difference between success and failure. It's no coincidence which businesses are listed first in Google searches. Call 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Now it's even easier to nominate your dog as the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day. We do it every Saturday. Send us a photo on Twitter or now on Instagram with the hashtag HU Dog of the Day. We choose a winner every Saturday. That's simple. Now on Instagram or Twitter, send us the photo using the hashtag HU Dog of the Day, and your dog could be the one added to our gallery on the website and Facebook page. It's the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day every Saturday. Cutting-edge design for manufacturing, Nova Product Design. Industrial design, mechanical engineering and design. Nova Product Design provides experienced design for parts and assemblies. manufacturing, assembly, and serviceability. From plastic parts to sheet metal forming, mold and tool design, injection molding, and more. Nova Product Design. Visit novaproductdesign.com to learn more. So you had to get groceries, take your daughter to dance class, and a pipe burst in the kitchen. You missed Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. No problem. All of our shows are available as a podcast right after the show airs, so you can listen when life gets in the way of hearing us live. Subscribe through iTunes and get alerts as soon as the podcast is available, or go to our website, hockeyunfiltered.com, and listen. Plus, check out the other cool stuff. The Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis podcast. Subscribe now through iTunes.
Final Sunday program of the season, Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis, a busy one with Sean Leahy from NBC Sports, Pro Hockey Talk still to come, Neil Greenberg from the Washington Post as well, at Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, our Twitter and Instagram handles. We're happy he's come back for one final visit. I'll see how happy he is after talking to me for a few minutes here. Our friend from scoutingtherest.com, at scoutingtherest on Twitter, Josh Smith joins me one more time. Josh, how are you? It's been a little while. Did you enjoy the Cup final?
Yeah, great series, Todd. I mean, I was hoping to see a little longer series. You never want to let the season come to an end, but it was a great playoff run, especially great for Vegas, and a good series. Nice to see Ovechkin and the Capitals get the cup, but always a bit of a letdown once it comes to the end and they hand out the cup. Good run all around, though. Very, very entertaining.
Yeah, there's always something missing the first few nights after. It's like, oh, well, there's no more games. And it takes a little readjusting of the mindset. Since we last spoke, I'm trying to recall exactly when that was. I think it was early on in the playoffs in the postseason. Give me your thoughts and assessment overall on the officiating. I'll tell you mine right now that I thought it was maddeningly poor.
I would say frustrating. The biggest frustration to me, and we've joked long about how the rule book changes in the playoffs and what get called and what doesn't get called. But I think from a consistency standpoint, it was frustrating, as I felt that we had some situations where a low grade penalty was called in a key situation, and yet some more egregious penalties were let go. Sometimes we see that from official to official or pairing to pairing, but I felt like this year the inconsistency was across the board. Now I know they want to try to keep things fair, and the general consensus is we'll only call it if somebody gets an advantage or there's a potential for injury, and otherwise let them play. I felt like sometimes it seemed like they were letting them play, and other times they would call maybe a tic-tac penalty and send one guy to the box. So it was frustrating in that, at least from a viewing standpoint, you couldn't get a feel for where they were. I know you've got guys like Wes McCauley and Kelly Sutherland, that's some of the best communicators out there. So hopefully there was talk on the ice to let these guys know where they stood. But from my standpoint, I couldn't get a feel for where the line was. And I think wherever you draw the line as an official, that's where it needs to stay. And to me, this postseason felt like that was always moving.
That's a fair summation of where my mind was, that it didn't vary from referee to referee. It varied from period to period. And that, I think, makes it a much more difficult thing for players and for fans to understand. And I'm not sure that gets taken into the equation enough. It's so much more difficult for fans to understand that we'll say what a penalty is, but then they will see blatant examples as we get more casual fans during the late stages of the playoffs saying, well, I just saw a trip over there that wasn't called. How come that one was called? And I think you make it difficult to make the game more accessible. I'm not sure that gets enough consideration. Do you think?
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think fans, especially the casual ones, expect that, and I know this is crazy, when a guy gets tripped, it's a tripping penalty. And like you said, you get more odds on it in the Cup final or in the playoffs. It's a different situation. And I also think it's magnified because you have fewer games, you have fewer goals being scored, and you look at like a cross-check in front of the net right before a goal is scored. Well, the officials decided that wasn't a penalty, but moments later, a goal gets scored on the play. if they don't score, maybe people let that go and say, oh, it was a cross check, they missed it. But when you have, a 3-2 game and a game-winning goal is scored right after a guy gets cross-checked in front of the net, obviously that amplifies the significance of a call or non-call.
The other situation was the one with the big Tom Wilson hit on Jonathan Marchessault, and then the subsequent David Perron jumping onto the ice and cross-checking Alex Ovechkin. The play did get called and blown down at that point to make sure that Marchessault was not severely injured after that big crunching interference check. But there was no penalty going to be called on that place until there was a huddle and until somebody caught the replay up on the scoreboard. And I think that's another frustrating part.
Well, officially, from what I understand, they never catch it on the replay. They in the huddle, right. and it's through talking to the other officials. If one of them happens to glance up, it may be purely coincidental because the scoreboard or Jumbotron replays are not part of the process. However, when it comes to major penalties, they can discuss it among the 4 officials on the ice and come to a consensus there. It was a little disappointing to see how that played out. I think just setting the tone from a player safety standpoint on those kinds of hits. And I know Tom Wilson felt it was a good hit. It was late. Marchessault didn't see him coming. I would disagree that it's interference on the play. The NHL didn't feel it came to the level of suspension, but I would say it certainly deserved a penalty on the ice. It's those types of things, though, especially in a cup final as things get heated, and they did as that series went on, that I would think you'd want to keep a tighter on to avoid things getting out of control. And Ron was lucky. Technical altercation on the ice, so there was no need for suspension, but had gloves been dropped, we might have been looking at something a little more serious for him.
Yeah, no question, absolutely. I know that's the official word that the penalties were called after the huddle. I'm not buying that official explanation myself, and that's my opinion. So, but and Tom Wilson is simply trying to maneuver and get public opinion on his side by saying he thought it was a good hit. He's delusional if he thinks that it's a good hit. But it also brings the question: should we be using replay in a more formal fashion? And I went to a ball game last week and can't believe how quickly the replay process went when the call was made and a challenge was made. I think that's something that also we can look at speeding up the process.
Well, I think speeding up would be great all around. I feel like the tempo of a coach's challenge has changed a little bit with Toronto handling and making the final decision on some of the reviews rather than the on-ice officials. It could be that they get a jump start on looking at the replays while things are still happening on the ice, and they have the luxury of all their screens and people weighing in. So I feel like that has accelerated the coach's challenge process a little bit, and not to the detriment of the calls. I mean, they have veteran retired officials in the room to help weigh in, so we still have official representation there. It's just by going to that room, I think they have picked up the pace a little bit. Certainly, we don't want to bog the game down with replays and reviews, but I think when you get a situation where you've got a potential major penalty or a game misconduct or something where the officials huddle and say, hey, that could have been a major, the impact to both teams and to the player, either the one that was injured or the one that may be receiving a penalty, is so significant that I wouldn't be against taking a second look at it for a situation that looks like a potential major or game misconduct.
Yeah, absolutely. And just because of the speed of the game, it's gotten so fast that we have seen mistakes made where a trip was called where no offense was committed, a high stick was called and no offense was committed, and the like. I think that's something that we need to pay attention to. There was only one real instance of goaltender interference and the challenge that was made. But again, that I don't think is the big story on that play. I think it was the real story was out in front. It was Christian Juice and David Perron who were assaulting one another with slashes and cross checks and punches in the head, and none of that was called by the referee. I believe it was Wes McCauley in the corner, one of the best in the business, and those two wound up toppling into the goaltender, and the puck went in, which of course resulted in a challenge. If you call the penalty that occurs out in front, you avoid the debate about goaltender interference in this case, and I suspect many others.
Absolutely, and I know it's a battle for position. The battles get tougher and tougher in the postseason, and we see officials that are inclined to let things go when it's a fair battle, when two guys are shoving back and forth. But you blow the whistle, you call minors on both, send them to the box, and maybe that sets the tone later on. And maybe that's something that you do in game 1 and game 2, so it doesn't escalate to that point. I think the right call was made, but I agree, and I see where you're coming from, that this is a situation that maybe deserved penalties before the goal was scored. And that's, like I said, that's the kind of thing that you don't want it to get to that point. You don't want that game late in the Stanley Cup final to be a situation where you're trying to set the tone on what's permittable. And that was a great situation. Don't blame them for the challenge, because there was definitely contact in the crease, but you're right that maybe a sooner whistle would have prevented any of this from happening. Granted, there wouldn't have been a goal on the play, but wouldn't be the wrong call to have been made early.
Yeah, and I don't want to take battles for position out of the game. And I think if you are leaning on a player and trying to maneuver yourself into position, I'm okay with that. If you're kind of shoving someone with your shoulder, even to the point where you take your hand off your stick to try to push an opponent out of the way so that you can get better position in front of the net or move a player away from the front of your net, I'm okay with that. But when it turns to cross-checking, to pushing an opponent with your stick and he winds up in your goaltender's crease, we always hear the debate of, oh, well, he was pushed into the crease. Well, isn't that a penalty or supposed to be a penalty? Yeah,
and I think in this case, it escalated to the point where those guys could have been given matching minors and sent off. It's not, it's a good battle when you've got shoving and battling for position, but when you've got potentially dangerous situations with cross checks, and not that anyone was going to be injured on those plays, but falling into a goaltender, certainly potential for injury on the play, or some of the stick work we've seen with flashes around the hands that they've let go with both guys whacking at each other. Well, in October, those guys would have both been sent off. And I know we want to keep the battles in the game, but I think that line needed to be established. And hopefully Macaulay was yelling at him to tell them. But obviously, to his opinion, it didn't escalate to the point where he needed to blow the whistle.
Yeah, and you took the next point I was going to ask you about right out of my mind as well, because you're right. It's just the standard seemed to shift as from October to the Stanley Cup final. It's pretty clear it was different. Tell us now, what is the process for officials moving forward in the summer? Everybody takes a little time off, relax, but they will begin training and getting ready for the next season at some points over the summer, just like the players do. And they also have a training camp, and there are video sessions that they'll go through and reviews that they'll take place as part of their camp as well?
They do. I don't want to say they'll take the summer off, because I know the guys who were eliminated from the postseason already started their summer regimen and continuing their training, their CrossFit, their off ice work. It's a year-round process for these guys, so there's really not downtime other than when they're recovering from injuries, which I know we have a few. Much like players, the season comes to an end, you find out who was injured and who's recovering, and they want to get ready for the fall. So they'll keep training. I know the league will have communication over the summer. Dave Smith will talk to them about nutrition and fitness and what they're working towards. They'll get together right before the start of the season. They'll have an officials training camp, go through. I don't expect any major rule changes this year, so hopefully it's just standards and revisiting what's a call, what's not a call. A lot of what we hear from the GM meetings about showing a situation and saying, is this interference? Is this should this be a penalty? And just trying to get them all on the same page. So that'll happen just before the start of the season. I know a lot of guys will spend the summer doing officiating training camps around the country, so they'll be out there trying to help get the next generation of officials educated and better prepared for their seasons when it starts in the fall.
Yeah, and it's already going on. Josh Smith from scoutingtherefs.com. Follow him on Twitter at scoutingtherefs for a lot of great info, and check out the website as well, including the NHL rulebook, which provides clarity on some of the rules as well that are misunderstood by so many. Josh, you've been really good with all your time and giving us great explanations all year. It's very much appreciated. Have a great summer and look forward to picking it up with you in the fall.
Thanks, Todd. You too. Enjoy it, and we'll brush up on any of the changes and get our rule standards ready for the start of next season.
You got it. Consistent standards. That's what we're looking for. Josh Smith from scoutingtherefs.com. And it was really frustrating at times during the Stanley Cup final. And I hope by highlighting it and talking about it, the objective is to improve, not just to bitch about stuff. At Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, our Twitter and Instagram handles. Lots to come in our final half hour. Sean Leahy before the top of the hour from NBC Sports Pro Hockey Talk. And Neil Greenberg from the Washington Post will join us in our next segment. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. Back with more after the break.
Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis sends you to the biggest events at the best prices. This year, we've partnered with Seat Giant to give you special deals on tickets to NHL games, concerts, or other events. Simply go to SeatGiant.com, find the tickets you want. When you check out, use the promo code TODD for a special discount. That's promo code TODD for a special discount. Start saving with SeatGiant.com on your next purchase. Get your business started getting more leads. 1-844-SEO-LEAD. The number to call if you want more online leads for your business is 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Search engine optimization can be the difference between success and failure. It's no coincidence which businesses are listed first in Google searches. Call 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Now it's even easier to nominate your dog as the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day. We do it every Saturday. Send us a photo on Twitter or now on Instagram with the hashtag HU Dog of the Day. We choose a winner every Saturday. That's simple. Now on Instagram or Twitter, send us the photo using the hashtag HU Dog of the Day, and your dog could be the one added to our gallery on the website and Facebook page. It's the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day every Saturday. Cutting-edge design for manufacturing. Nova Product Design. Industrial design. Mechanical engineering and design. Nova Product Design provides experienced design for parts and assemblies, manufacturing, assembly, and serviceability. From plastic parts to sheet metal forming, mold and tool design, injection molding, and more. Nova Product Design. Visit novaproductdesign.com to learn more. So you had to get groceries, take your daughter to dance class, and a pipe burst in the kitchen. You missed Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. No problem. All of our shows are available as a podcast right after the show airs, so you can listen when life gets in the way of hearing us live. Subscribe through iTunes and get alerts as soon as the podcast is available, or go to our website, hockeyunfiltered.com, and listen. Plus, check out the other cool stuff. The Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis podcast. Subscribe now through iTunes.
Sunday edition of Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis continues up till the top of the hour, our final program of this season. At Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, our Twitter and Instagram handles. Before the top of the hour, Sean Leahy from NBC Sports Pro Hockey Talk will join us for a visit. Happy to welcome back. He's been with us before, but it's been a while, from the Washington Post. You can follow him on Twitter, at @NGreenberg. Neil Greenberg joins us. We'll talk a little more about the Washington Capitals. Maybe he'll give us some fancy stats and numbers. Neil, the first, I think the first stat we are looking for is the over-under chances that Alex Ovechkin is actually able to remain conscious while the celebrations continue until parade time on Tuesday.
Yeah, I can confirm that we got that Instagram photo from him sleeping with the Stanley Cup at his home. So at least home in bed. That's, I guess, a good. I didn't see like any IVs or anything, but I did see the Stanley Cup. So it sounds like so far he's safe and sound.
I think it's been fantastic to see this celebration, and I think it's just starting to sink in for everybody else what this really means for the city and for the Washington Capitals to have this championship arrive.
Yeah, it's certainly been the People's Cup. I mean, you look at how quickly the team as a group have just gone out in public, starting with the Nats game. Well, actually, starting with a local bar when they first touched down at Dulles, but then just bringing it around town, DuPont Circle, Georgetown, going to, as I said, the Nats game. I mean, it's just really been pretty exciting and comical to watch these guys. It's been a long time coming, so I guess all those years of frustration has finally now turned to jubilation, and
and they're just having a ton of fun. It's great to see.
Yeah, it's great. And good for them. They deserve it and they earn it. The Caps won 4 straight games after dropping the first one. Are there areas that you've noticed or focused on or picked up on that were key to the Capitals winning the next 4 games? It just the second game I thought was close, but after watching Game 3, I thought that was the moment that it shifted in favor of the Capitals, and I thought that's it. This series is going to be over quickly, and it was. Did you see it that way, or was there something else that you picked up on?
Well, I think the biggest thing was they figured out how to get pucks past Marc-Andre Fleury, and that was making sure that he was moving from side to side with some cross-ice passes. I think that was key to getting goals on the scoreboard. But also the one of the under-talked about stories here, I think, was the way the defense played. And I'm not just talking about the blue liners. I'm talking about the forwards too. Not only in the Vegas series, but throughout the playoffs in general, just being able to shut down secondary scoring, being able to, especially against Tampa and Vegas, absolutely neutralize the top lines of both those teams. And that was key in terms of, obviously, Washington's big stars shown, right? You had Alex Ovechkin and Evgeny Kuznetsov leading in points, but just almost everybody else played some significant role in this playoffs, whether it was Devontae Smith-Pelly, Lars Eller, Brett Connolly, Michael Kempney, even Brooks Orpik had a game-winning goal in forever. So it just really was, from top to bottom, the most complete team effort I've ever seen from this franchise.
And if you want to stretch back over a number of other series, that Washington Capitals power play was absolutely lethal at times. Because there are so many options, so many really, really good strategic options, whether it's the Ovechkin one-timer or another choice that Backstrom or Kuznetsov would make with their pass.
Without a doubt, they play that 1-3-1 power play, and the key is to make sure that you have shooters at every position. And certainly you have that. And what Washington was better at doing during this playoff run than I think in others was, if someone was shadowing him like Vegas was doing, Ovechkin on the left circle, it essentially turned it into a 4-on-3 with a lot of focus on John Carlson from the point and TJ Oshie in the slot. And that really did help soften Marc-Andre Fleury up, even if Alex Ovechkin didn't get his one-timers as often. That's the correct way to handle the penalty kill when they do that. And just like you said, I mean, you pick your poison there. Either you take Ovechkin out and have to deal with 4 other very good players, or you don't play it well and a pass gets to Ovechkin at the circle, chances are it's going in the net.
And the other thing that we saw too is the Caps can change it up and shift, because they moved Ovechkin and Carlson, essentially switching them in spots, which gives you a bit of a different look and puzzles the defenders for a time, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly, that's a relatively new wrinkle that we saw over in the playoffs. We didn't really see that too much during the regular season. But like you said, I mean, Ovechkin has a strong shot, whether it's at the circle or the point. And he played the point on the power play before Adam Oates got here a couple of years ago and made the switch. So it's certainly enough to get either the puck through or create a rebound. And with Kuznetsov down there, and I said Oshie before, I mean, it makes it very difficult to stop.
The other thing that we're all anxious to see now and how it plays out over the summer is the free agent status of John Carlson. Everybody's saying the right things, that he wants to come back. They'd like to have him back. The salary cap looks like it might be going up. Is that going to be enough? Is there a tipping point, though, where the dollars don't match or the term doesn't match? It's great that he's had such a terrific postseason and regular season in terms of points. I'm not sure I see a real liability in any way to John Carlson's game, other than it just might cost too much money.
Yeah, they're going to get creative, in my opinion, with the term to try to bring the cap hit down. There's nobody on the market quite like John Carlson. I mean, right-handed defensemen that can quarterback a power play are rare, and they're in high demand. So the market value for him is going to be significant. But there's nobody else in free agency that can either take over that spot or play the amount of minutes that he plays. You got to remember, when Niskanen went down with injury back in November, Carlson was skating upwards of 27, 28 minutes a night. sometimes topping 30. So he's certainly an integral part in how this team works. I just don't see them being able to keep being as competitive without him. So my guess is they'll find the money, they'll find the term, and they'll find a cap figure that works. I would expect him to be in a Washington Capitals uniform next year.
Does that impact anyone else's return as a potential free agent, either restricted or unrestricted? And the one I'm thinking of is Michael Kempny, because he just seemed to fit so perfectly in that lineup.
Yeah, I would say Michael Kempny and Jay Beagle are probably going to be the two players that could get squeezed out. Jay Beagle probably is in line for a raise. I'm not sure he gets that at Washington. And like you said, Michael Kempny was proved that he really wasn't out of place on this playoff roster. I mean, he came up in big moments. He skated really well. He was very good on the defensive end. I think he's going to get a lot more attention in the offseason. So if I had to pick any players, those would probably be the two that I would focus on in terms of departing.
Yeah, and then of course there's the big question about Barry Trotz and whether or not he comes back. It's the ball's in his court. There will be a contract offer. If the money and everything else suits him, then he'll come back.
Yeah, talk about hitting free agency at the right time. I mean, there's only been a handful that have won the Stanley Cup and then not been with the team that they won it with the following season. I think Scotty Bowman was the last, but he retired. He wasn't necessarily fired or without a contract. So yeah, he's going to be in the catbird seat. And, you know, as you were watching the playoffs, I think he got more expensive with each comeback win and each series won for sure. So, you know, I think that it's something that is going to be on everyone's mind. And I think it'll be hard, though, to leave after what he accomplished. But, again, I think the money ultimately is going to be the defining factor.
Yeah, and then there will be a lot of it. Neil Greenberg from the Washington Post. Follow him on Twitter @ngreenberg. Neil, good to have you back again, and hopefully we can talk again in the fall when we resume. Appreciate the time today.
Thank you. I appreciate having me on. Good to talk to you again.
Thank you. You too, Neil Greenberg from the Washington Post. The celebration will continue for the Washington Capitals. They were at the ball game yesterday. Today, I think there's a big season ticket holder event. I don't know if Alex Ovechkin is going to be doing keg stands out of the cup at the season ticket holder event, but that's what he was doing at the ball game yesterday. Swimming in the fountain outside the stadium, all kinds of fun stuff, we'll say. And it looks like they got at least a couple more days of it. @Hockey Unfiltered, @Todd Lewis Sports, our Twitter and Instagram handles. One more segment up to the top of the hour for the closeout of the 17-18 season. Sean Leahy from NBC Sports Pro Hockey Talk will join us in our next segment. Back with much more coming up after the break.
Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis sends you to the biggest events at the best prices. This year, we've partnered with Seat Giant to give you special deals on tickets to NHL games, concerts, or other events. Simply go to SeatGiant.com, find the tickets you want. When you check out, use the promo code TODD for a special discount. That's promo code TODD for a special discount. Start saving with SeatGiant.com on your next purchase. Get your business started getting more leads. 1-844-SEO-LEAD. The number to call if you want more online leads for your business is 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Search engine optimization can be the difference between success and failure. It's no coincidence which businesses are listed first in Google searches. Call 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Now it's even easier to nominate your dog as the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day. We do it every Saturday. Send us a photo on Twitter or now on Instagram with the hashtag HU Dog of the Day. We choose a winner every Saturday. That's simple. Now on Instagram or Twitter, send us the photo using the hashtag HU Dog of the Day, and your dog could be the one added to our gallery on the website and Facebook page. It's the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day every Saturday. Cutting-edge design for manufacturing, Nova Product Design. Industrial design, mechanical engineering and design. Nova Product Design provides experienced design for parts and assemblies, manufacturing, assembly, and serviceability. From plastic parts to sheet metal forming, mold and tool design, injection molding, and more. Nova Product Design. Visit novaproductdesign.com to learn more. So you had to get groceries, take your daughter to dance class, and a pipe burst in the kitchen. You missed Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. No problem. All of our shows are available as a podcast right after the show airs, so you can listen when life gets in the way of hearing us live. Subscribe through iTunes and get alerts as soon as the podcast is available, or go to our website, hockeyunfiltered.com, and listen. Plus, check out the other cool stuff. The Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis podcast. Subscribe now through iTunes.
Sunday edition of Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis, at Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports. It's our final program for this season, wrapping up the 17-18 season. Can't think of a better way to do it than with a visit from our friend from NBC Sports Pro Hockey Talk, Sean Leahy. At Sean_Leahy is how you follow him on Twitter. Sean, tell me about the Stanley Cup final. I saw your photos that you posted prior to the game where it was quiet. Then you have the mayhem of the pregame ceremony that gets things started, the game itself, and then of course covering the Cup victory afterwards and being up close and witnessing that celebration on the ice has got to be something special.
Yeah, I mean, look, I definitely do not take this job for granted, and the fact that I'm able to go on the ice after a Cup win is pretty awesome. And going out to Vegas for the first time and covering a game, some games there, and seeing the atmosphere around the rink before the game, inside during the game, and all the build up, it's awesome. It's like a party atmosphere, and the warm up music, just with the warm up music, the bass pumping through my chest, it kind of made me want to run through a wall. I was pretty hyped up in the press box, but all experience in Vegas, and it just kind of goes to show you just how much that organization has really hit every beat this season and really knocked it out of the park in really establishing a foundation in year one. And obviously the on-ice product went above and beyond what anyone ever would have imagined. So this sets up things for an exciting summer with the cap space and their sudden success and heading into year two.
I think having the same kind of success might be a bit ambitious to think of for Vegas. So next year, let's assume that they have a good team, but they don't necessarily have a Cup finalist team. What they've done so far, is that going to continue to help build and grow this franchise moving forward?
Yeah, I think so, absolutely. I mean, Bill Foley, his whole thing was, what was it, playoffs in 3, Cup in 6, and certainly that changed pretty drastically as the season went on. And they're going to have a ton of cap space this summer, especially if it goes up as it's expected to. They have a couple RFAs like William Karlsson's a re-sign that might cost them a little bit. They're going to have a ton of room to maybe go out and try and learn some big impact free agents, or even go via the trade route and add some salary there. So I think they're set up for success for next year. Yeah, make a final next year. I don't know. Maybe not. It's pretty. I think it's a little too early to say, but now George McPhee is going to be pretty active in the off-season market. Improving his team, building upon this team. But even if they don't make it to the final next year, they added so many fans this year. Not just casual fans, but people probably weren't even interested in hockey at all with what they did since the beginning of October, and just doing things out in the community. And certainly the fans showed them love, but the players showed the community love right back. And it was just a match in heaven. And I'm curious to see just how tough it's going to be to get tickets going next year as well.
Yeah, that's probably going to be an even tougher test. We know the questions going forward about the Washington Capitals with Barry Trotz, John Carlson, and the like, but it seems after watching this team celebrate for a couple of days very publicly that, boy, this is a championship that seems to have really grabbed the attention of the city and grabbed the attention of hockey fans. That this is pretty cool how this has finally happened, that they were able to achieve this goal after so many years and so many struggles.
Absolutely, and my weekend's not going to be complete until I see a drinking Alex Ovechkin carrying the cup on the back of Justified through the streets of DC. Just because, I mean, all those shenanigans this weekend aside, when Ovechkin took that cup from Bettman the other night, you could just see how much it meant to him. I know he was emoting throughout the entire series, just with every goal, every save, but just when it was finally over and he could call himself finally a Stanley Cup champion, you could just see it come out of him. And I joked yesterday on Twitter that every Caps day with the cup this summer is going to include Alex Ovechkin, because it seems like he's never letting go of the cup, and that could be the case. But a guy like him, Carlson, Jay Beagle, Nick Backstrom, guys like that who have been through the heartbreaks from the last 10-ish years or so, the ups and downs, the President's trophies and the disappointments, for them to finally achieve this, you just saw how much it meant to them. And obviously with the city having gone 20 years, actually more than 20 years with the championship, but at least for the 20 years as far as getting that far, and it meant so much to the fan base, and certainly meant a lot to a lot of those players after what they've been through.
At Sean_Leahy is the Twitter handle for Sean Leahy of NBC Sports Pro Hockey Talk. That's who you want to follow to look for that GIF later on today of Alex Ovechkin riding Justified with the Stanley Cup. But what's gone on so far I mean, that really wouldn't surprise me. I doubt that they'll let Justified out of the stables to do that, but it would not surprise me to see Ovechkin riding a horse down Constitution on Tuesday as part of the parade. I suggested earlier that TJ Oshie and Niskanen have to take the cup on the subway to get to the parade. I think there's nothing that is out of the realm of possibility in terms of celebration right now. But I think it's fantastic. I think it's good for hockey, and it's nice to see this kind of personality from these guys.
Absolutely, and the best part is that they're not just sharing it amongst themselves; they're sharing it with the community in DC. They're going to restaurants and bars, and they took it to the Nationals game yesterday and throughout the pitch, and they were hanging out in the crowd with the cup, and they're sharing it with their fans, because it obviously meant a lot to the players, but like we just said, it meant so much to the community and the Capitals fans as well, who have been winning a very, very, very long time to see this actually happen. And look, it's only June 10th, right? Training camp doesn't start for another 3 months or so. There's going to be a lot more parties and a lot more videos from random places around DC to come.
Yeah, no doubt. The cup has been in Mario Lemieux's pool a couple of times. Like yesterday was the first to have it in a fountain, at least recently at Nationals Park. But the other question is it possible for the Cups for the Capitals to repeat and win a Stanley Cup again next year?
Yeah, I mean, why not? Right? I think Barry Trotz will be back. I mean, Brian McClellan, I was there when he said on the ice, basically, if Barry wants to come back, he'll be back. And I'm sure McClellan was kind of using the postseason as a gauge to see if whether or not to bring him back. If they would have never came back against the Blue Jackets, if they would have never gotten over that hump in the second round in the Penguins, it would have been a little easier for them to part ways, especially with Trotz not having a contract beyond this season. But I think, the players love Trotz. Trotz obviously has an affection for the players. He called them his kids. So there's no reason why he can't be back. And you look at their cap situation, they're pretty good. Obviously the big one is John Carlson. Is he going to cost a little too much for them to bring back with some of the other free agents they have, like Michael Kempny, who was a revelation since coming over from Chicago, had a great series, and Devontae Smith-Pelly, the new John Druce, Mr. Playoffs over here. He's getting a new contract as well. Had a great year. Tom Wilson as well. So they got a couple guys who need to be signed. Certainly the back of the goalie question. Philip Grubauer, will he be back, or will a team like the Islanders make Brian McClellan a little bit of an offer? But certainly the Caps, they're still loaded. Ovechkin's, we can probably count for Ovechkin scoring 45 goals next year at least, like he usually does, and Backstrom with 60, 70 assists. So they're pretty good. But as you saw with the Penguins last year, it's so tough to repeat. That's why it's only been done a few times in the last 25, 30 years. So, but certainly the Caps right now, as long as they sober up before October, or maybe even sober up, I think they should be in okay shape to try and repeat.
Yeah, I think it's 50-50 whether that can happen right now. Sean Leahy from NBC Sports Pro Hockey Talk, at Sean_Leahy to follow him on Twitter. Great stuff. Enjoyed it as always, pal. Have fun over the summer, and we'll look for you again in the fall to do this a few more times. Thanks, bud.
All right, Todd. Enjoy your summer, buddy.
Cheers. That's Sean Leahy from NBC Sports Pro Hockey Talk. It wouldn't surprise me to see Ovi riding a horse in the parade on Tuesday. I don't think it'll be justified, but I wouldn't surprise me. There is nothing that will really surprise me. I mean, it's Hangover 4. That's the movie. Caps win the cup. It happened in Vegas. They started the party. It continued across the country. They got to make it back for the big parade on Tuesday. Hilarity ensues. I could really see this happening. But good for them for going out and enjoying themselves and showing some personality and having some fun and really taking it up. Our thanks to Sean Leahy, to Neil Greenberg, to Josh Smith, to Chris Peters, to Jim Diamond, to Luke Fox, to Sean Gentille, and Pete Blackburn, all for joining us on today's program. And thanks to all of our guests all season long. It's been some kind of year. As we get to the end of the program and the end of the season for Hockey Unfiltered, it has been an amazing ride. This show started as an idea, something to give you better than fanboy cheerleader kind of coverage that you get so much of. The show's changed and evolved. This year, we moved in another direction, and to the thousands that tuned in to the live shows and check out our podcast, thank you so much. Your support is appreciated, and it fuels us to do more and to be better. So a couple of quick thank yous to a couple of people. This show started with a phone call from our executive producer, Sam Mang, about 8 or so years ago, and it's morphed into this project. So thank you to Chelsea Clyde, our producer, who joined the team a little after that. Thank you for all that you've done. It's very much appreciated. We're going to take a little break over the summer, and I know that we'll also do a lot of work over the summer and be ready to go again for a new season when it gets going. We're not going to disappear completely over the summer. There'll be some podcasts. We'll have some things on social media that you can check out as well. So once again, thanks, Sam. Thanks, Chelsea. Great job. And thank you to you, especially for listening. Have a great off season. Have a great summer, and looking forward to year 8.
Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis sends you to the biggest events at the best prices. This year, we've partnered with Seat Giant to give you special deals on tickets to NHL games, concerts, or other events. Simply go to SeatGiant.com, find the tickets you want. When you check out, use the promo code TODD for a special discount. That's promo code TODD for a special discount. Start saving with SeatGiant.com on your next purchase. Get your business started getting more leads. 1-844-SEO-LEAD. The number to call if you want more online leads for your business is 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Search engine optimization can be the difference between success and failure. It's no coincidence which businesses are listed first in Google searches. Call 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Now it's even easier to nominate your dog as the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day. We do it every Saturday. Send us a photo on Twitter or now on Instagram with the hashtag HU Dog of the Day. We choose a winner every Saturday. That's simple. Now on Instagram or Twitter, send us the photo using the hashtag HU Dog of the Day, and your dog could be the one added to our gallery on the website and Facebook page. It's the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day every Saturday. Cutting-edge design for manufacturing, Nova Product Design. Industrial design, mechanical engineering and design. Nova Product Design provides experienced design for parts and assemblies, manufacturing, assembly, and serviceability. From plastic parts to sheet metal forming, mold and tool design, injection molding, and more. Nova Product Design. Visit novaproductdesign.com to learn more. So you had to get groceries, take your daughter to dance class, and a pipe burst in the kitchen. You missed Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. No problem. All of our shows are available as a podcast right after the show airs, so you can listen when life gets in the way of hearing us live. Subscribe through iTunes and get alerts as soon as the podcast is available, or go to our website, hockeyunfiltered.com, and listen. Plus, check out the other cool stuff. The Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis podcast. Subscribe now through iTunes.